Salam everybody, welcome to Physics with Noshir, and let's discuss the paper that is in front of us. Now, you see that in this question, they're rolling a ball on a slope and then it goes onto a horizontal surface. आपको ये पता होना चाहिए that when the ball goes onto the horizontal surface, उसकी speed change नहीं होती, उसकी speed increase करती है as it's on the slope, and then the speed becomes constant when it's on the horizontal or flat surface. But horizontal या flat surface के अंदर question says there are two sections. One section is the smooth one and the other section is the rough one. The difference would that be that in the smooth section, your speed will not change, it will remain constant. But in the rough section, as you know, it's just like going onto grass or something which is rocky or something which offers a lot of resistance. So क्या होगा ball को? The ball is going to slow down as it comes into this section. So on the ramp, the ball speeds up, which is shown by this part. This is where your ball is speeding up. The speed is increasing. You can see on the y-axis. Then the speed is constant. This is the horizontal part, but the part which is smooth. जिसके अंदर कोई friction force नहीं थी. It was because it was smooth, so speed remained constant. And then on the rough part, because of friction, you decelerated or slowed down. Now the maximum speed that you attain at the end of this ramp is 12.8 meters per second, or your time guzra tha, that was 1.5 seconds, as you can clearly see. And then at the end of the smooth section, your time that had elapsed was 2.2 seconds. So यहाँ पे smooth section खत्म हो गया था और उसके बाद ये rough patch शुरू हो गया था आपका. Now, if I move on, stay the time when the ball reaches the start of the rough section. That means that the end of the smooth section, that was 2.2 seconds. Explain how figure 1.1, now be very careful, figure 1.1 को use करते हुए समझाना है that there is no resultant force. So you will say that there is a horizontal line on figure 1.1 which shows that there is no resultant force when the ball rolls along the smooth section. So वो जो flat line होती है speed time graph के अंदर, वो क्या show करती है? वो show करती है constant speed. और constant speed का क्या मतलब होता है? Constant speed का मतलब होता है acceleration is zero. And if acceleration is zero, what does that mean? F is equals to ma. In that formula, F is the resultant force. Now you guys guess yourself. Shabash. If acceleration is zero, what will your resultant force be? It will also be 0 newtons. Okay, so वो यही कह रहा है कि हमें ये prove करके दो कि there is no resultant force, but you have to use figure 1.1, so you have to mention somehow कि the line has zero gradient. In figure 1.1 किस part की बात कर रहा हूँ मैं इस part की बात कर रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. Okay, so be very careful on that. Now, the next part says, part C, use figure 1.1 to determine the acceleration of the ball. Acceleration is gradient of the speed time graph. You can say that, or you can simply calculate the gradient using the formula of gradient. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 as the ball rolls down on the ramp. आपको पता था कि जब वो ramp के ऊपर थी ball, तो उसकी speed increase कर रही थी. And this was the end of the ramp where it hit maximum speed. So 12.8 and 1.5 are the coordinates of this point. This point is 0, 0. You just use those coordinates into that formula and your answer is 8.53. The ball starts from the rest at the top of the ramp. Show that the length of the ramp is 9.6. So हमें इस ramp का distance निकालना है. अब आपको पता है कि if you have a speed time graph, the area under the graph gives you distance. But I'm only talking of the ramp, so that means you were only looking at the part where your speed was increasing. So we're talking of the area of this triangle over here, and you do half into base into height, and you get 9.6 meters. Now the second question, please focus, don't lose track. Second question में उसने कहा है that you have a kid or a baby, and this kid is suspended from this weighing scale, and as you know that the weighing scale is going to actually tell you what the baby's weight is. The reason is that he or she is suspended from the machine. Suspended का मतलब क्या होता है? It's not moving. Not moving का मतलब क्या होता है? The forces are balanced. कौन सी forces? Let's assume this is the baby who looks more like a spider right now. तो ये उसका weight है नीचे की तरफ, और आपको पता है कि स्प्रिंग के अंदर जो फोर्स है वो ऊपर की तरफ होगी, तभी तो ये बेबी नीचे नहीं गिर रहा. शुक्र है. एंड बिकॉज ही इज नॉट मूविंग और शी इज नॉट मूविंग, these two forces are balanced. So the force in the spring and the weight of the baby must be equal. Then he says that the spring obeys Hooke's law up to 175. State Hooke's law. Force applied is directly proportional to the extension produced, provided the limit of proportionality is not exceeded. State the relationship between the mass of the baby and the force. अब आप मुझे बताओ कि जितना mass of the baby ज़्यादा करेंगे उतना weight ज़्यादा होगा naturally, और जितना weight ज़्यादा होगा उतना force in the spring भी ज़्यादा होगा. So mass of the baby is proportional to the force in the spring, or you can say mass of the baby into 9.81 is equal to the weight of the baby, which is equals to the force on the spring, which I just explained some time ago. Next, the reading on the spring balance is 8 kgs. What is the force in the spring? Force is equals to weight. Weight is mg. So 8 into 9.81. Please, yaad rakhna, ab se excitation ki value 9.81. It's not 10. So all of your answers are given to 2 to 3 SF. So you could write 79 or 78.5 newtons. Both answers are correct. The next part says you have to sketch the graph beyond limit of proportionality. So 175 Newton was the limit of proportionality as given in the question. Straight line banani hai all the way till limit of proportionality. Now, it's not necessary that you make the point till over here. You could make the point here. You could make the point here. So you could have a straight line over here as well. लेकिन आपने उसके आगे भी कंटिन्यू करना है, तो आपने याद रखना है that the curve is towards the extension axis. Hello? Are you here? Good. Yes, I'm talking to you. Gee, my Jawan, I'm talking to you. Focus. Don't lose track. Past papers are extremely important. और इसके अंदर अगर आप 1 मिनट के लिए भी फोकस लूज कर जाओगे तो आप जो नंबर लिख रहे हो ना, ये मेरे साथ होता है. मैं अगर बिल्कुल सही कैलकुलेशन कर रहा हूँ और मैं 1 मिनट के लिए मेरे दिमाग में कोई ख्याल आ गया और मैं ट्रैक लूज कर गया हूँ, सो मैं 8 इंटू 9.81 की जगह मैं 8 इंटू 8 लिख दूंगा या मैं 8 इंटू 7 लिख दूंगा. ये ज़हन में रखना कि जैसे ही ट्रैक लूज करो फौरन उसी टाइम पे रुको 1 मिनट के लिए एंड चेक कि आप लिख क्या रहे हो. ये बात मेरी भूलनी नहीं है. इन द एग्जाम जैसे ही दिमाग डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो, स्टॉप फॉर 10 सेकेंड्स एंड जस्ट सी व्हाट यूर राइटिंग. मैं आपको गारंटी देता हूं कि आपने उसमें कोई गड़बड़ कर दी होगी, और अगर नहीं की होगी दैट्स ग्रेट, बट 95% पीपल आई नो मेक मिस्टेक्स बिकॉज दिमाग डिस्ट्रैक्ट हो जाता है. सो इसे डिस्ट्रैक्ट नहीं होना. प्लीज स्टे फोकस्ड. Part C, you have to calculate the change in gravitational potential energy, which is given by the formula mgh. Now, the value of m and g, the weight is already given to us, which is 78.5, which we calculated above. The height was 3.5. Multiply, you get 274.75. So the answer will be 275. And do not forget to write the unit joules. Number 3, they're showing a puddle of water, and the size of the puddle of water is reducing over time, or it's a warm, windy day. Describe the process by which the volume of water in the puddle decreases. Now, you all know that the process is evaporation, because in evaporation what will happen is that the more energetic molecules will leave the water surface. तो जाहिर है अगर water molecules ही उड़ जाएंगे तो बीच में पीछे जो water का mass है वो कम रह जाएगा, volume जो है वो कम रह जाएगा. So the more energetic molecules escape from the surface, leaving behind less energetic molecules, which is why the amount of water or the volume of water decreases. One change in the weather that would cause the volume of water in the puddle to decrease more slowly. So you want to decrease the rate of evaporation. So आप उसके अंदर temperature को lower कर लें, आप उसके अंदर windy की जगह उसको less windy कर दें, because warm temperatures tend to increase the rate of evaporation. If it's cold, then it would decrease the rate of evaporation. So rate of evaporation is proportional to temperature. If the temperature is less, evaporation will be less. Explain in terms of molecules how sweating helps to cool your body on a hot day. Very simple. देखो, आपकी बॉडी के ऊपर जब वाटर आ जाता है, which is sweat, तो स्वेट क्या करता है? वो स्वेट बॉडी की हीट को एब्जॉर्ब करता है. जब वो स्वेट बॉडी की हीट को एब्जॉर्ब करेगा तो स्वेट क्या करेगा? वेपराइज कर जाएगा, क्योंकि स्वेट तो पानी है. पानी हीट एब्जॉर्ब करेगा, क्या करेगा? इवेपोरेट कर जाएगा. So that means that the molecules have enough kinetic energy to escape your skin, leaving behind molecules with lower energy. कि स्किन से हमने एनर्जी एब्जॉर्ब की, जो एनर्जी एब्जॉर्ब की वो मॉलिक्यूल्स पानी के अंदर जो थे वो हाई एनर्जी हो गए और वो हाई एनर्जी लेके एस्केप कर गए. तो अब जो पीछे पानी के मॉलिक्यूल्स रह गए हैं वो ज़्यादा एनर्जी वाले हैं, कम. दे आर द वंस विद लोअर एनर्जी, और चूंकि उनकी एनर्जी कम है इसलिए स्किन का जो टेम्परेचर वो भी कम हो जाएगा. Mass is density into volume, as you all know, and the density of sand is given to you and the volume is also given. Just multiply and you get the mass. Thermal capacity. Thermal capacity is heat capacity. What is the difference between heat capacity and specific heat capacity? Just have a look at the unit. जो थर्मल कैपेसिटी और स्पेसिफिक हीट कैपेसिटी स्मॉल सी, इसका यूनिट होता है जूल पर केजी केल्विन, वेराज कैपिटल सी का यूनिट होता है जूल पर केल्विन या जूल पर डिग्री सेल्सियस. सो क्या फर्क है? एक केस में मास है और एक केस में मास नहीं है. किस में मास नहीं है? सी में. किस में मास है? स्मॉल सी में, विच इज स्पेसिफिक हीट कैपेसिटी. सो जूल पर केजी डिग्री सेल्सियस के साथ हम क्या करेंगे? हम इसके साथ केजीज को अगर मल्टीप्लाई कर देंगे, गौर से सुनना मेरी बात को, जूल पर केजी डिग्री सेल्सियस के साथ अगर हम केजी को मल्टीप्लाई कर देंगे तो मुझे बताओ केजी केजी कैंसिल हो जाएगा नहीं होगा? हो जाएगा ना. एंड व्हाट आर यू लेफ्ट विद? जूल पर केल्विन, व्हिच इज कैपिटल सी. हियर्स व्हाट आई एम सजेस्टिंग. You multiply small c with m and you will get capital C. So that is how you get the formula for heat capacity, which is m into c, 95 into 1500, and your answer should be joule per degree Celsius या joule per Kelvin. और क्योंकि उसने डिग्री सेल्सियस यूज किया इसलिए मैं डिग्री सेल्सियस लिख रहा हूँ यहाँ पे. Now, the initial temperature of the sample of sand is 7 and the sand is heated using a heater. The power of the heating element is 50 watts. Calculate the time taken to increase the temperature to 19. So Q is equals to, हमारा usually formula क्या होता है? हमारा usually formula होता है Q is equals to mc delta T, right? Now if you've already calculated m and c, I can even write Q is equal to c delta T. And what is Q? Q is energy. अभी energy कहाँ से आ रही है? ये heating element से आ रही है. Heating element is power into time. So power into time is equal to c delta T. So time जो निकलेगा वो निकलेगा 1.43 into 10 raised to power 5, which is your heat capacity or your thermal capacity. The temperature difference is 19 minus 7 and the time we have to calculate and the power that they've given is 50. So ये 50 जो है यहाँ पे नीचे divide हो जाएगी and you will get your time as 34,200 seconds. Again, your calculator will give you a big answer. You have to round it off to 2 to 3 significant figures. So if somebody wrote 34,000, that's also acceptable. And because they did not mention, इसलिए I'm leaving the time in seconds. You could convert it into hours if you wish to. अब ये सवाल इसने क्यों पूछा? ये सवाल इसने इसलिए पूछा because वो basically sand के अंदर एक heating element रख रहा है. In some countries, the soil is too cold for plants to grow well, so you keep them indoor and you put heating elements in the sand. So sand heats up by conduction, and then the sand is in contact with this plastic pot. So plastic pot के molecules भी by conduction or by let's say vibrations of the sand molecules or with the sand molecules, the plastic pot also gains that heat energy from the heating element. Directly इसलिए नहीं लगाते कि plastic pot जो वो melt कर जाएगा. You know, plastics can melt. Plastic को कभी भी microwave में नहीं रखते. So heat is transferred to the sand molecules through conduction. The sand molecules are in contact with the pot. The molecules of plastic pot gain energy through conduction from the sand. हाँ, but अब वो आ गए हमारे पास microwavable plastic भी होता है, but still if the heat is too much, it can cause a fire. The heating element remains switched on. The temperature of the sand remains constant at a value. आप खुद सोचें, सर्दियाँ होती हैं, ठंड होती है, आप गर्म चाय बनाते हैं, जैसे ही वो चूल्हा बंद होता है वो चाय ठंडी पड़ जाती है. अच्छा, जब आपका चूल्हा ऑन है, एज लॉन्ग एज योर स्टोव इज ऑन एंड योर टी इज बॉइलिंग, तो वो टी जो है ना वो एक ही टेम्परेचर पे रहती है. वो उसका टेम्परेचर ना बढ़ रहा होता है ना कम हो रहा है. वाई? बिकॉज इट्स फ्रीजिंग आउटसाइड. यहाँ पे ठंड है, ये मैं ठंड का सिंबल बना रहा हूँ. दिस इज वेरी वेरी कोल्ड आउटसाइड. एंड ऑल्दो यू आर गिविंग इट हीट फ्रॉम हियर, the chai remains at its temperature. It's warm, but it remains at that temperature. It doesn't go very high. It doesn't. There's a chance that it will go low. अगर ये पीछे जैसा पाकिस्तान में गैस कम होती है तो हीट कम होती है, फौरन चाय ठंडी होनी शुरू होती है. Why is that happening? The reason for that is that whenever something is hot, it's going to lose heat to the surroundings. Whenever you take a hot shower and you come out, why do you feel cold? Because a hot body will always emit heat. You will radiate heat. Heat is constantly lost from the sand due to temperature difference between the sand and the surroundings. Surrounding का temperature कम है, sand का temperature जो है वो ज़्यादा होगा, तो क्या होगा? If I go back to this question, ये तो पानी था. अगर surrounding का temperature कम होगा और sand का temperature ज़्यादा होगा, what's going to happen? The sand is going to lose heat to the surroundings. और ये याद रखना that the rate of heat loss is directly proportional to your temperature difference. Temperature difference between the body and the temperature difference between and the temperature of the surroundings. So difference between the temperature of the body and the surroundings. जितना टेम्परेचर डिफरेंस ज़्यादा होगा उतना ज़्यादा रेट ऑफ हीट लॉस होगा. और ये इसकी क्लासिक एग्जांपल वही है, व्हेन इन विंटर वी टेक अ वार्म शावर एंड वी कम आउट वी फील वेरी कोल्ड. किसी दिन ठंडा शावर लेके आइएगा बाहर, यू विल नॉट फील, अब हम लोग ठंडा शावर लेते हुए कुछ चीखें निकल जाएंगी, बट व्हेन यू कम आउट यू वोंट फील that you're losing too much of heat, because neither would you feel very cold, because you're already feeling cold, because the temperature of the body and the temperature of the surroundings is very close. So आपको वो ये नहीं होगा कि एकदम से आपको ठंड लग रही है, वो आपको ठंड शुरू से ही लग रही होगी. So rate of heat loss is directly proportional to the temperature difference between the body and the surroundings. ये बात याद रखो. So उसने कहा कि explain why the temperature of the sand remains constant. Although you have a heating element in the sand, but why is the temperature not increasing? Because you're constantly losing heat to the surroundings. And the rate of heat loss from the sand is constant at a steady temperature. So अगर आपका temperature maintain हो रहा है, let's say for example ये पानी हम उबाल रहे हैं और इसका temperature 100 डिग्री सेल्सियस maintain हो रहा है, that means कि जिस रेट पे यहाँ से heat enter कर रही है उसी रेट पे यहाँ से heat exit भी कर रही है. क्यों, खुद सोचो, अगर ये दोनों रेट सेम नहीं होंगे तो ये टेम्परेचर चेंज हो जाएगा. अगर ये हीट लॉस का रेट ज़्यादा हो गया ये टेम्परेचर गिर जाएगा. अगर हीट इनपुट का रेट ज़्यादा हो गया तो ये टेम्परेचर बढ़ जाएगा. और अगर टेम्परेचर कांस्टेंट रह रहा है तो उसका क्या मतलब है? दैट हीट इज बीइंग लॉस्ट एट अ कांस्टेंट रेट एंड हीट इज बीइंग गेन्ड एट द सेम रेट एज वेल. जिस रेट पे हीट गेन कर रहे हो उसी रेट पे हीट लूज कर रहे हो, तभी टेम्परेचर स्टेडी रहता है. सो रेट ऑफ हीट लॉस फ्रॉम द सैंड is constant at a steady temperature. So the ray that I've drawn, this is the incident ray, and this ray that I'm drawing right now, this is your reflected ray. You will also mark your angle of incidence and your angle of reflection. In the next part, they say label a position of x. So x is the image. So you know object distance must be equal to image distance. So this is x. State whether the image formed by the mirror is real or virtual. It is virtual since it cannot be captured on a screen. Now the next part, they're saying you have to draw the image of the clock as seen by the boy. It has to be a mirror image. Mono means one, frequency means color, so light of a single frequency. Then you have green light, C is equals to F lambda, C speed of light, all colors travel at the speed of light, 3 times per 8 is equals to frequency into 5.6 10 to the minus 7, and you get the frequency as 5.4 into 10 raised to the power 14 hertz. Now you have to draw the magnetic field pattern, so you draw field lines from north to south and then these curved field lines. What are these? These are your slip rings. Now they've already shown you that the direction of the galvanometer is this. That means that the current is flowing like this. So if you want to make it in the coil, this is how you'll draw the current. And they're saying, explain your answer. The current, the magnetic field, and the force, they're all mutually perpendicular. That is Fleming's right hand rule, which is not right in your syllabus, but you should know this fact, that the current, magnetic field, and the force are all perpendicular. So if they ask you to tell us what is the direction of the force, they've told you that this is the direction of rotation, so the force is this way. The magnetic field is this way. And the current is flowing clockwise. Or current ka direction clockwise hai, anti-clockwise hai, galvanometer will tell you. If the galvanometer was pointing like this, then the current would have been in the opposite direction. So before you guys look at the next part, I want you to see this video and understand, and then I'll tell you what the answer is.
Generator. When the armature rotates between the poles of the field magnet, the magnetic flux linked with the armature changes continuously. As a result, an EMF is induced in the armature. This in turn produces an electric current through the armature and the galvanometer and through the slip rings and the brushes. Note that the galvanometer needle swings between the negative and positive values. This means that an alternating current is flowing through the galvanometer. Direction of induced current. Initially, the armature ABCD is vertical with its arm AB up and CD down. The direction of magnetic field is from left to right. As the armature undergoes a half rotation clockwise, arm AB moves down while arm CD moves up. According to Fleming's right-hand rule, the current will flow in the direction DCBA. So, the current will flow from B1 to B2 through the galvanometer. Now during the next half rotation, arm AB moves up while arm CD moves down. Again by Fleming's right-hand rule, current will flow in the direction ABCD, that is, from B2 to B1 through the galvanometer. Thus,
so the reason why I've showed you this animation is that from generators you can expect a question where they can ask you to sketch how the EMF induced varies with time. And that particular graph looks like this. Number one. Number two, they can ask you to tell us what are the coil positions. So you can see that when the coil is in the vertical position, the EMF induced is 0 because the galvanometer is showing 0. So this is the vertical position of the coil. And if I go back in the video, let me try and go back. If I go back in this video, then you will see that when it's in the horizontal position,
to B2,
the EMF induced is almost maximum. This is not the near horizontal position, but when it is absolutely horizontal, the current induced is going to be maximum. So the horizontal positions are where the EMF induced and the current induced is maximum. This question can be asked. And you don't need to know Fleming's right-hand rule, but you do need to know that the direction of current is from B1 to B2 in one case like this. And then when the rotation direction changes, then the direction of current induced will also reverse and it'll go from B2 to B1. And that should explain you this answer, that as the coil rotates, it causes a change of magnetic flux, which causes an EMF to be induced. The induced EMF causes an induced current. The induced current changes direction after every 180 degrees. So in this question, they've given us a circuit and they're asking you for how many cells. So you know you have got 1.5 volt cells and you want to generate 12 volts. So that means you need 8 cells. Now when the switch is closed, the reading on the ammeter is 2.4 ampere. Please note that this 2.4 ampere is the total current. Everybody knows the formula is V is equals to IR, but एक और formula भी होता है, which is EMF is equals to I total R total. Remember, whenever you write EMF, that is I total R total. So ये बात मैं repeat कर रहा हूँ. जब भी आपको cell का EMF given होगा, and you want to find out the current or the resistance, remember whenever you have EMF, you have no option but to use the formula I total R total, no matter what the question says. Now 12 volt is the EMF because this is the battery voltage. So therefore they're asking you to calculate what is the total resistance, and we know that the total current is 2.4, so we use EMF as 12 volts and the formula EMF IT RT. Now we'll put 12 is equals to 2.4 into the total resistance of the whole circuit, and the total resistance turns out to be 12 divided by 2.4, which is 5.0 ohms. Now in the next part, They say each lamp has a resistance of 3 ohms. So both of these lamps have resistance of 3 ohms. The resistance of the entire parallel combination is going to be R1 into R2 over R1 plus R2. This is a shortcut which you must remember. So 3 into 3 over 3 plus 3 will give you the total resistance of this parallel combination, which is 9 over 6, 1.5 ohms. अब ये जो total resistance थी इस पूरी चीज़ की that was 5. So if they're asking to find the resistance of Q, you can just do the total resistance minus the resistance of the parallel combination, which was 1.5. So that's like 5 minus 1.5, which is going to be 3.5 ohms. All right, so in the next part, they say that you have to draw a symbol for the voltmeter that measures the potential difference across the lamps. So this is how you show the voltmeter being connected across the lamps. And now the next part, they say, what is the power supplied to one lamp? So the equation that I'm going to use is P is equals to I square R, because they already told us what the current is. The total current was 2.4 amperes. Yeah, that was the current. Now have a look on how I do what I do. So 2.4 ampere is the current that is coming out of the cell, right? And that is the current that is flowing in the circuit. So at this point, when the current reaches, the current is going to split, and it will split equally because both the bulbs had the same resistance. So 1.2 ampere is the current that goes into one bulb. We have to calculate the power in one lamp or one bulb. So 1.2 square into the resistance of the lamp, which was 3 as given in the question. So just do the math and solve, and you will get your answer, which is 4.3 watts. Make sure you write down your answer on the line. Now, radius connected to the main supply using a step-down transformer. Let's design a step-down transformer. So first you make a square box. And you make sure that there is a box inside the square as well. Let me just get that ruler. Here's the line. And now the next line will be inside, yes. So first I'll draw the 2 straight lines, and then I'll draw the horizontal lines. So that is how you get the structure of the iron core of the transformer. And because it's a step down transformer, therefore the number of turns that I'll make on the primary side, this is the primary side, the number of turns that I'll make on the primary side should be more. So these are your primary turns or primary coils. Let me move that here. And let's attach a power supply, which should be AC, to the primary coils. And let's call this as primary voltage. Now, on the secondary side, you have to show fewer turns because it's a step down transformer, and you have to label it. Let's connect the voltmeter to the secondary side and label the secondary turns as secondary coils, and also label the voltmeter as secondary voltage. And then let's label the iron core. Now, the basic operation of a transformer is that there's a current in the primary coil. This current causes a magnetic flux in the primary coil. So there's a flux, or you can say there's a magnetic field that is generated in the primary coil, and that magnetic field carries on to the secondary coil. So the current in the primary coil causes a changing magnetic flux in the primary coil. This flux is linked to the secondary coil through the iron core. This changing flux cuts the secondary coil and induces an EMF in the secondary coil. So what I want to emphasize over here is that the field lines from the primary side, the magnetic field lines that are generated due to the current in the primary coil, those magnetic field lines travel to the secondary coil through the iron core. So the iron core is responsible for linking this flux. In field lines को हम बोलते हैं flux or magnetic flux. This magnetic flux cuts the secondary coil, which induces an EMF, which is Faraday's law. Let's move on to the next part. So you'll use the equation Vp over Vs is equals to Np over Ns. They've given you the primary voltage as 230 and the secondary voltage as 6. You'll calculate Np over Ns. And Np over Ns turns out to be, let's do it on the calculator, 38.3, and there's no unit for this. But since they're asking you to calculate Ns over Np, you are going to flip the number and make sure that your answer is given to two significant figures. So 0.026 is the final answer, and there are no units because both quantities have no units. The final question. Alpha particle. Alpha particle is helium-4 So the proton number is 2, the nucleon number is 4, and the charge is +2 because that comes from the number of protons. Now, strontium-90 consists of 38 protons and 52 neutrons and decays by beta emission. So strontium-90 जब लिखा हो, 90 is the mass number. 38 is the proton number. So I can simply write strontium 90 38 arrow. Now you emit a beta particle, beta 0 minus 1. You must remember that beta is 0 minus 1. Plus yttrium. Now we need to write down what is the mass number. Mass number will be 90. And what's the proton number? Proton number will be 39. And I'll just explain this to you. Dekho, the mass number on the product side, which is the total mass over here, should be equal to the total mass on the reactant side. So mass number on product side must be equal to mass number on reactant side. And similarly, the proton number on the product side, which is the sum of these two, should be equal to the the proton number on the reactant side, which is 38. So if I do 0 plus 90 on the product side, I'll get 90. And the mass on the reactant side is also 90, as you can see. For proton number on the product side, if I do 39 minus 1, actually 39 plus minus 1, that should be equal to 38, which is 38 on the reactant side as well. One thing that I want to mention over here is that a lot of you think that probably this number is 37 because it's 38, so minus 1 should be 37. Nahi. The total proton number on the product side should be equal to the total proton number on the reactant side. Ab khud karke dekho. If I write 38 is equals to minus 1 plus 37, are they even equal? No, this will be 38 is equals to 36, which is wrong. I need 38 to be equal to 38 on this side. So I have to write 39 because 39 minus 1 will give me 38. So I'm going to rub 37 so that that thought goes away from your head कि हमने 37 लिखना है. 37 लिखेंगे गलत हो जाएगा. Now coming on to the last part of this question, that is the half-life of radon 220 is 56. The sample of radon 220 is in a container. After 112 seconds, the is 9.2 milligrams. Calculate the mass of the original sample. So देखो sample इतना बड़ा था, decay हुआ, छोटा हुआ, decay हुआ और छोटा हुआ. Now the mass reduces by half after 56 seconds. Okay. And then reduces by half after another 56 seconds. So this is half of this and this is half of this. Total time कितना गुजर चुका है? If you add the two times, what you get? You get 112 seconds. ठीक है. अब गौर से सुना, हमने उल्टा चलना है because we have to go back to the mass of this sample. when time was going, and after 112 seconds, the mass that I'm getting is 9.2 mg. So 9.2 mg is the mass of this little ball. So अगर मैं आपसे पूछूं कि उल्टा चलो और मुझे बताओ 56 seconds पहले कितना mass था, बाद में नहीं, 56 seconds पहले, so you'll say double the mass. So 9.2 को if you double it, what do you get? 9.2 into 2, you get 18.4 mg. Correct. और मैं कहूँ 18.4 mg पे 56 seconds पहले क्या था? Before you got to 18.4 mg, if you go back 56 seconds, you go back 56 seconds, which means you go back to a bigger mass. What was the mass then? You double it again. Your answer will be 36.8 grams mg. So that means that if I go 112 seconds back in time, the original sample had a mass of 36.8 mg. Remember, they're asking you to go back because they're asking you to find out the mass of the original sample. So your answer will be 36.8 mg.